Hello, Laoshi Lawrence McElroy here again. I thought we'd take some time to do a little deep drill into the 5 root goals of Tai Chi that we introduced on Thursday evening. Those are regulating the body, regulating the breath, regulating the mind, regulating the Qi, and regulating the spirit. So we'll start with regulating the body, or T'ai Qigong. I need to move back. The way we begin to explore regulating the body is to establish a nice, strong structure, relaxed, strong structure. So that's going to start with our foundation, our feet. Our feet should be parallel, or as close to parallel as possible, and shoulder wide. And in the Water Tiger School lineage, we define shoulder width as being where the drop of the shoulder is should split the heel on both sides. So not the outside of the delt, nowhere on top of the shoulder or the trap, but right at that initial decline, right above the foot, splitting the heels in half. The knees then are open. They are off lock, not a straight and strong leg of yoga, but I'm sort of sitting down into the body. You don't have to be low, just not straight or off lock. The perineum, the base of the pelvic bowl, is anchored toward the earth. Not on the earth, that's a different sensation, but down toward the earth. Now, going to the head, the crown point of the head is held to the heavens. Now, many people will think when you say crown point of the head, you mean the center of the top of your skull. The center of the top of the skull held to the heavens. You may not initially be able to feel this, but you're actually leaning slightly back. The crown point of the head is toward the back third. You drop the chin slightly, and it will take that point to the heavens. If you're not quite sure how to do calculations on what exactly is the back third of your skull, then there's a line. The line is marked from nose to navel, comes up over the top of the head, and where that line is crossed by a line from opening of ear to opening of ear is the crown point of the head. What that establishes with the crown point of the head held to the heavens, not lifted, that's a different sensation, sort of like it's a different sensation to anchor the perineum to the earth, explores the principle known as the spine should hang like a string of pearls. With those 2 points in a line and relaxed. Now, I don't wear pearls very often, but I have been known to wear a mala. And I'm going to move into the camera a little bit because I want to show you this particular mala. It might be hard to see, but I just wanted to point out this particular mala. They are Tibetan death's head beads. Why do I feel that that's important in the world in which we find ourselves right now? Is one of the purposes of the Tibetan death's head bead is to remind us of the principle of impermanence. This too shall pass. So, not quite the good example of a string of pearls, single strand of pearls would be, but you can see this is what the spine should hang like. Held to the heavens, not lifted, anchored toward the earth, but not on the earth. See, if I were to do that, lift up, pull down, then I've created tension in the spine, and instead of a string, I have a staff. And if a staff gets out of alignment, I have to find that alignment again. But as the spine hangs like a string of pearls, its top point gets out of alignment. The bottom point comes back in. The bottom point gets out of alignment. All you have to do is get out of your own way, and it finds itself. So that's what we want with the spine. Crown point of the head to the heavens, base of the pelvic bowl to the earth. A couple more structure points. We want the chest slightly concave. It's inward, rounded slightly in. The back is rounded slightly out, convex. So the shoulders, the back, sort of open up a little bit like wings. That creates a little relaxation under the arms. Now, some will say that you should have the space of a closed fist underneath your arms. Now, if I create that space and then take the fist away, that arm, the shoulder, the upper back, the chest is overactivated. If I just sink the chest and round the back, there's a little movement in the elbows. And there's a sense of relaxation between the inner upper arm and the outside of the lats. And that's what we want. So a way to explore that I'm in my vertical alignment in this position, so I can be utilizing just the right amount of activation to hold myself in place, is I can do a little test. And turn sideways again so you can see. Now, very carefully, start to lean the entire body forward from the ankles. So the body's still slightly aligned, but tilting slightly forward. Notice how, as you start to move a little bit forward, your toes start to grip through whatever your footwear choice is. Because, you know, it's like, dude, you're going to fall if you're not careful. And then allow yourself to slowly move back, seeking to find that place of release where there's almost a sense of awe, like a puzzle piece sliding into place. Now, very carefully do the same thing, but in leaning backwards. Doesn't take long in that lean back for your heels to go, hey, we want toes too. Stop it, dude. You're going to fall over. And then once again, move forward and seek to find that place where everything just feels like it drops into place, where you're using the least amount of muscular activation possible. And you can do that forward and back for a while to start to build that awareness. Don't forget sideways, right? If I start to tilt my hips from one side to the other, now I won't feel quite the same way as like I'm falling over, but I'll notice the changes in the activation in the hips, the glutes, the legs. That becomes even more prevalent when you're doing balance exercise in seeking a descending into one leg. The idea of this structure is to get us to the point where we can begin to explore what we refer to at Water Tiger as the physicalization of the principle of Wu Wei. Wu Wei is a Taoist principle that most people translate as non-action, but it's actually, from our perspective, appropriate action. In other words, I'm seeking to find that place where I'm using as little of my own muscle as possible to hold me up. It's more gravity and structure forming a partnership to hold me up than it is my own muscles pressing down against the earth to keep me upright. That's the idea of utilizing just enough. To take that image further, imagine, if you will, a large truck drives by outside, vibrating the ceiling above me enough to knock off a small chunk of that very beautiful insulation that you see over my head. And say that little chunk, that little piece of insulation floats down and lands on my shoulder. If I were to make no adjustment, if I were truly utilizing just enough activation of my own muscles to hold me up, the additional weight of that little piece of fluff would be enough to knock me over. That's the idea of Wu Wei in our structure. That allows us to be in a position of relaxation so we can feel the situational changes in our body and allow for structure to be maintained instead of having to make structure be maintained. That becomes important as we start to move our little structure play a little bit deeper, crown point head, base of the pelvic bowl, over the ball of one foot or the other. Now keep in mind, you're going to have one side that's maybe has a little bit better balance right now than the other side. Now, I did with Tai Chi. We may never get both sides exactly the same, but eventually we should get that difference between the two sides closer together. Crown point head, base of the pelvic bowl, over the ball of one foot. Now notice, I'm going to put my hands on my hips for a moment. As I slide over to that side, my hips and my shoulders are staying parallel to the earth. Because again, this is a different sensation. I can actually feel the work just explode in that leg with that slight hip tilt. So I can sit down in the leg. Stepping to the other side. Again, it's more of a slide from side to side. Crown point head, base of the pelvic bowl, ball of the foot. Setting down into that body and that foot. Releasing any extra activation so I can be relaxed. Now, some of us come to Tai Chi and Qigong because we have balance challenges. And it's like, Lawrence, you got to be kidding me. If I do that, I'm going to fall over. Use a tool. Something that will be there to catch you, or something that will support you without any fear of it going away. So nothing with breath, no Great Dane, no niece, no nephew, no grandchild. Something that will hold you, a wall, a very sturdy chair, a countertop. You have to be careful with chairs. Take this folding chair, right? If I fall into it within its structure, it's fine. But were I to fall into it that way, it's going to go away. So be careful, nothing with wheels. I shouldn't have to say that, but I will. And that allows you to remove the fear of falling from your balance work. And then, of course, we wean ourselves away from that. You know, you start with the whole hand on the wall, and then maybe go to the fingertips and the thumb tip. Then maybe start to eliminate some of the different fingers. And then maybe just one finger, and then float. And then don't even have your hand up. But sometimes that's all we need, that little security, that little idea of Linus's blanket. So when we are structurally aware, we can be more relaxed. Relaxation is important in our body, for it allows us to move without having to do anything before we move. If we're tense, you have to release that tension before you move. If you're relaxed, all you have to do is move. So it's a little bit like, you know, if my body's tense, in a way, it's like driving with one foot on your accelerator and one foot on your brake. Now, current traffic patterns aside, we have to do that quite occasionally on Long Island, but you don't get anywhere very quickly. Our idea is to remove the need of the brake entirely. You never have to hit the brake. It's all just different pressure on the accelerator. So our movement can go without any pause. A lot of times, to exemplify that, I will talk about the idea of, you know, say that you're walking down a street and you perceive a threat. Now, if you're in a martial arts movie, of course, you're going to drop into some sort of combat stance. That does several things. One, it creates tension in my body. I have limited what I can do because of my physical position. I'm back weighted to my right foot. There are few things that I can do with my right leg because it's holding the majority of my weight. My left foot is forward, so that's a little bit different. My left hand is forward, my right hand is back, right? So I've created some limitations to my movement. Another thing that does is it tells the other person that at least I think I know what I'm doing. And thirdly, I perceived a threat. What if there wasn't a threat? I have just escalated a situation where there was a threat to now maybe there is a threat. We like to say at Water Tiger School that this is a ready position for Tai Chi. It's neutral. I can move left, I can move right, I can move forward, I can move back. I can use either hand and arm, I can use either foot and leg. So I am relaxed and ready to move. Another thing that physical relaxation does for us and our ability to relax is it helps the mind to relax. Do some simple math. 2 plus 2 is 4, 4 plus 4 is 8, 8 plus 8 is 16, 16 and 16 is 32, 32 and 32 is 64. You get the idea. Not too hard, right? Now, once we're done with social distancing and somebody asks you to move a piano, when you pick up your half of the piano, do the simple math again. It won't be so simple. So a relaxed body helps to relieve the tension of the mind. So this is very important. Another thing, tension in the body shuts off communication between ourselves and our body. We can't feel what's really going on in our body if we're tense. You know, one of the phrases that I use sometimes, you should feel the weight of your body. If you don't feel the weight of your own body, of your arm, of your leg, of your hands, then you're holding too much tension. Tension, I love this phrase. I wish I could remember the author from whom I stole this off the top of my head, but that's just not something that I'm able to do right now. Tension is the numbing blanket, that it shuts off the communication between ourselves and our physical self. So we need to be relaxed. Regulation of the body is the first step to reaching your 5 root goals. So keep in mind, start with structure, alignment, relax and release anything that's not necessary. And you'll find yourself able to move, to respond without having to do anything else. Thanks. And if you have questions or observations, feel free to enter them in the comments below.